Sei, a freilichen Yomtiv, a freilichen Lag Boimer. Lag Boimer is called the Matan Torah Pnimius HaTorah in some places. In Samachvav, in Usfartem, the Rebbe Rashab explains that the Matan Torah of Nigle was given on Shavuos. And Shavuos, of course, is the 50th day. You have 49 days of Achana. And on the 50th day, you get the Torah. And Lag BaOmer, because there's Nun Share Bino, Lag BaOmer is after Lamed Beis. Lamed Beis Nesiv is Chochma. And after that, you have Galei Nevabit and Flois Tzaisecha, the of Seidas HaTorah, Pnimius HaTorah, which reveals something even higher. By the way, if you notice an improvement in the quality of the video, it's because the people who make this happen, and they know who they are, and the Eibush knows who they are, have been working very, very hard to improve the quality of the classes and to make them easier to see and easier to enjoy. And this is one of the newest innovations that covered Lag BaOmer. It's pushing a much better camera, and hopefully it'll be better quality video and audio. And we're learning a Ma'amar, which we started yesterday, Kimei Tzaisecha Me'eretz Mitzrayim, but in the flight Tavshin Chai. And for those of you who follow us on the Ma'amar journey, which is a journey unto itself, in the morning we have the Tehillim journey, and at night we have the Ma'amar journey. So this is the Ma'amar journey. And by the way, for the record, tomorrow we're going to have the Pasha class at 5 and the Ma'amar class at 6. It's going to be a bit of a shina, the Gabi today. Okay? Because the class I usually give on Tuesday, because of Lag BaOmer, was postponed until tomorrow. This is the second class of the Ma'amar Kimei Tzaisecha. And of course, Kimei Tzaisecha is a hemshach to the Ma'amar v'hechrem avachem shel Pesach. And as we discussed yesterday, the hechrim of Achim shel Pesach spoke about 3 ideas: Havai L'Tata, Havai L'Yela, and Havai Avatzmas, which connects to 3 occasions of interface between Yam and Yabasha, land and sea. The first, of course, is when the Eibishter created the world, that the emergence of the land, amongst other things, contributed to the beginning of life, to the creation of living things. All living things begin from the earth, as we discussed in our supplemental class, which I gave you on Sunday. And of course, the second time was when the Eibishter gave us the Torah at Har Sinai. There was a convergence, there was a coming together of Almadis Kasya and Almadis Galia, the hidden worlds and the revealed worlds, because there was an onset, there was a Gili of Havaya D'Liela, which is Havaya in Rotz. And the Asad Lave says the Ma'amar, there will be a Gili of Havaya Vatzmus, which will result in B'kiyas HaNohar, and a revelation that's even higher than the Gili which was by Kriyas Yamsuf. This is more or less what we learned in the previous class. In the previous Ma'amar. Then I sat down to prepare this Ma'amar yesterday, and it was very, very intense. It was hard for me to learn, because the Rebbe is turning everything on its head. The second Ma'amar, the Hemshech, is not just continuing what he said before, is offering an opposite perspective, a really opposite perspective. How so? So again, these are the words I used yesterday in Shir. I'm just repeating them again. In Vehechrim, he spoke about Giluyim. Havai L'Tate is one Gilui, which is through Tzimtzum really. Havai D'Liela is a higher Gilui. It's not through Tzimtzum, it's a Chibur of Havchim. And Havai of Atzmos is an even higher Gilui. That La'azat Lavod is going to be a Gilui of Atzmos, which is going to be a consequence of Avedas HaBirudim and other things, that's going to express itself in the B'kiyas HaNohar, as we discussed what that means. Along comes this Ma'amar and says, wait, there's a 4th idea. And the 4th idea is Atzmos. In other words, there's Havai L'Tata, there's Havai D'Liela, there's Havai in Atzmos, which is called in this Ma'amar Gilui of Atzmos. Gilui of Atzmos is not Atzmos. And then there's Atzmos itself. And in the class which we had yesterday, where we learned just the beginning and the end. We learned the very, very beginning and then the very, very end of the Ma'amar. We learned page 276, the beginning of 277, and only the bottom of 285. That's all we did. the Rebbe told us something very, very interesting. I'll use both expressions that the Rebbe used in yesterday's Maimer. Expression number one is that before Mashiach comes, is Nachas Ruach of Beirei. It's Hashem's pleasure. After Mashiach comes and Elam Haba happens, it's Nachas Ruach of Nivra. That's when we get our schar. And expression number two is that now is Atzmos. After Mashiach comes is Giluyim, and the argument of the Maimer is that Atzmos is never revealed. In other words, now we do mitzvahs, and as you'll see in this Maimer of the next couple of days, when we do mitzvahs, there is a koyach ha'atzmos and kiyum mitzvah. Now the koyach ha'atzmos can cause a certain gilui. There's a gilui of avayid letato, there's a gilui of avayid yelo, there's even a gilui of avayid atzmos. But atzmos itself is never revealed. And atzmos itself is dafkin a mitzvah, and atzmos itself is dafkin kabbalah seil. And in this Maimer, there are a number of different, you will see a number of different forms for this idea of atzmos. One of them is Moshe Rabbeinu, how Moshe is higher than Mashiach. And Gilui Mashiach is higher than Moshe, and Atzmos Moshe is higher than Mashiach. It's also called Simcha Shal Mitzvah. And if I recall correctly, there's also a third idea in the Maimer. I'm not remembering for sure. Oh, it's Mitzvah Ein Tzrichas Kavanah. Mitzvah Ein Tzrichas Kavanah. There's a concept where mitzvah dafka does not want to have a kavanah. So this Maimer is changing from the previous Maimer, that instead of just speaking about Giluyim, it's speaking about Atzmos. And practically, instead of speaking about three things, it speaks about a fourth. And argued this fourth, the highest thing, is now. It's not revealed now, but we're doing it now. And it's the Nesinas Koyach, it provides all the Koyach for all the Giluyim that can happen after Mashiach comes. And on that basis, the Rebbe explained something amazing. That when Yidden left Mitzrayim, which is the beginning of a process, which is not completed till Mashiach comes and beyond, we say Kol Aschol Koshes. At the very first moment of the Gili of Mashiach, you had the maximum Gili. The very first moment of the Gili of Mashiach, you had the maximum Gili. I'm sorry, let me say it differently. The very first moment of Kriyas Yamsuf, of Yitzis Mitzrayim, you had Kolas Cholos Koshes, you had the hardest moment. And because at the very first moment of Yitzis Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yamsuf, Kolas Cholos Koshes, you have Mamish Atzmos. In other words, in a certain aspect, the greatest moment in the entire history of the creation, vis-a-vis its purpose, is not when Mashiach comes, it's not after Mashiach comes, it's when Yidden leave Mitzrayim and the Yamsuf splits and Yidden get the Torah. Because then it's Atzmos. Not Gili HaAtzmos, but Atzmos. And in this Maimer, Atzmos is higher than Gili HaAtzmos. And Atzmos, the Rebbe calls it Helam, it's never revealed. And as far as this is concerned, the greatest moment is now. That's the Chiddush, that's a novelty of this Maimer. However, even though this Maimer has a whole new approach, the Mivne of the Maimer, the ideas of the Maimer are similar. In this Maimer also, we go through the three steps of meetings between Yam and Yabosha at the initial moment of creation, at Kriyas Yamsuf and B'Kriyas Anar, which would be the Yosted Lavi. But in this Maimer, we don't settle on that. We don't just go through these three steps. As we go through these three steps, and after we complete going through these three steps, we point out that there's something above all three, and that thing which is above all three is called Atzmos, and that thing which is above all three, which is called Atzmos, is more now than Liyasad Lavi. Again, in the wording of yesterday's Maimer, yesterday's Shir, it's Tainug Beirei, which is now, while Tainug Nivra is Liyasad Lavi. This is what we learned so far. So what's going to happen today? What's going to happen today is we're going to juxtapose the first meeting of land and sea with the second meeting of land and sea, which is how the Ma'amar V'Hecherim that we learned last week also started. Yeah, we're going to juxtapose the first meeting of land and sea when the Eibishter created the world, and the meeting of land and sea which happened. The Eibishter took us out of Egypt. The first meeting of land and sea was only Havaya Delatata, because the meeting was simply the supplanting, the pushing away sea to create land. Mashenkin by Yetzias Mitzrayim and Kriyas Yamsuf, it was a Havaya Delatata meeting of land and sea, where the land didn't push the sea itself became land, and it's a much higher level. And the Rebbe is going to call it Havaya Deliyela. However, let me say this now. The Rebbe is going to make a change in the division of ideas versus the previous Maimer. In the previous Maimer, we have three steps: Havaya Delatata, Havaya Deliyela, and Havaya Atzmos. In this Maimer, Havaya and Atzmos is going to become included in Havaya D'Liyela. It's going to become two. Any concept of Havaya, if it's not Havaya D'Latato, is Havaya D'Liyela. Havaya D'Latato would mean Havaya, where you go through Tzimtzum and Kehelim. And Havaya D'Liyela, whether you're talking about Havaya D'Liyela in Ratzon, or you're talking about Havaya D'Liyela in Atzmos, the Rebbe is going to include both of these together. That's what the Rebbe is going to do in this Maimer. And he's going to argue that he already said it in the previous Maimer, because in the previous Maimer the Rebbe said that when he didn't left Mitzrayim, Havaya D'Liyela was Be'ez Galos, and Havaya of Atzmos had to be there also, although then Havaya of Atzmos was in a state of Helim. Here the Rebbe is going to say it a bit differently. That not only is Havaya D'Liyela here, but he's going to imply that Havaya D'Liyela was actually Be'ez Galos, or available when the Yidden left Mitzrayim. There's going to be another change which is going to take place in this Maimer over the previous Maimer. And the reason this change is taking place, I believe, is because the Rebbe wants to argue that the third idea is not Havaya of Atzmos, the third idea is Atzmos itself, which changes everything. Excuse me.
The camera is upside down.
Really?
Got 4 messages and Muhammad told me just text.
Everyone is seeing, I see myself right side up.
I don't know. We'll get your messages from Muhammad.
Let's try. Okay. Okay, now it should be better. Okay, thank you for telling me. I'm sorry, everybody. I was seeing myself right side up, and apparently you were seeing me upside down. Okay, this is a new camera, and I was very excited about it. A mistake was made, and Belined, it won't happen again. I thank you, Balabasta. Nechama, thanks. I don't have the Facebook page open, so I wasn't able to see it. Okay, okay. אני מבקש סליחה מכולם. I apologize. Now, I'm compelled to say something which is extra and maybe drag on the shiur a little bit too long, which I'm hoping not to do, but I want to do it anyway. And that is that these 3 Havayas that the Rebbe talked about, he connected to a teacher and a student, a Rav and a Talmud. Havaya of Latata, Havaya D'Liyela, and Havaya Natzmos were compared to a teacher who was teaching a student, actually, where the teacher has to make a compromise in his own learning and go away from where he is to be able to teach the student. That'll be the first level. That'll be a mashal for Havaya D'Latata. And then, of course, the second mashal will be we have a teacher who wants to teach a student. He's planning to teach a student. He's intent on teaching a student. So when a teacher wants to teach a student, or he's intent on teaching a student, in that want, the teaching actually takes place. However, all the steps from the teacher's wanting until they're actually teaching to the student happen simultaneously on one point. And because they happen in one point, the relationship between the teacher and the student is such that there's no reduction from teacher to student. And the argument is that Havaya D'Liyela would be such a gilui. Havaya D'Liyela means a revelation of the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu for creation. And when the Eibishter reveals to creation his will, the creation itself and the will of the Eibishter are on the same madreg. Then the third Havaya, what the Rebbe called Havaya in Atzmos, is like Ratzon HaMuchlot Ba'atzmusei. And if you remember the shiur, I explained, the Rebbe says it in the Maimer, Ratzon HaMuchlot Ba'atzmusei means, if you will, how one's will is their personality. Ratzon HaMuchlot Ba'atzmusei means a want which is not expressed, a want which is not developed. It's muchlot be'etzem, it's part of what you are. And on the level where a teacher is a teacher be'etzem, his basic reality is to teach. So before he teaches, and before he even wants to teach, his personality as a teacher is called the Ratzon HaMuchlot Ba'atzmusei. In other words, his being a teacher and his essence are one and the same. And this is a mashal for Havaya and Atzmos. And I was compelled to repeat that. Okay, these 3 parallels. Okay, so let's begin to read Perek Beis inside page 277. I put up the PDF yesterday, and you should be able to find it of this Maimer. Says the Rebbe Lohavin Zeh to explain the question which we asked in the end of the previous paragraph, which we already know the answer to because we're at the end of the Maimer. Tzarech lahag the Mashin is Bayil, it becomes necessary for us to go back and visit what was discussed in the previous Maimer. B'inyan Kriyas Yamsuf, in as much as the splitting of the sea is concerned, says the Heilige Rebbe. It's one of the miracles and wonders which completely defies nature. It's totally supernatural. Kriyas Yam is one of the greatest miracles that ever happened. So the Rebbe observed, and we're going to analyze Kriyas Yamsuf. Right? And of course, we're not just going to explain the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. We're going to explain the mysticism of the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf. And of course, the mysticism of the miracle of Kriyas Yamsuf is a brand new presence of Hashem in this world. And in short, Kriyas Yamsuf, which is a preparation for Matan Torah, allows for the entry into the world of godliness, which is not symptomed, which is not adapted or changed by the fact that there's a world, and therefore reveals something much, much higher, namely the godliness associated with Torah. And of course, an even higher level of that is when Mashiach comes. But both of these ideas, the Kriyas Yamsuf and Matan Torah, and then Bekiyas HaNahar and the Torah Chadasha, which is going to be when Mashiach comes, is Hashem created a world. The creation follows a certain formula. The formula is called Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Kriyas Yamsuf reveals godliness and sets up the Nesinas HaTorah. Bekiyas HaNahar reveals an even higher godliness and sets up the Torah Chadasha, which is when Mashiach comes. They follow a similar formula. It's called Havaya, but on a higher level. Another way to articulate this formula is the meeting of land and sea. Sea means concealed, land means revealed. Land is the lower level, sea is the higher level. And in each of the three steps, in each of the three Havayas, in each of the three meanings of land and sea, there's a difference. By creation, there was a meaning of land and sea where land pushed away sea. In other words, land hides what the sea is. And by Kriyas Yamsuf, land doesn't push away sea, it's transformed into sea, because it reveals. And of course, L'asad Love is even on a higher level, as you see Mitzvah Hashem, tomorrow. Says the Rebbe, there was already a phenomenon of bridging the barrier between land and sea, violating the Havdalah between land and sea. Which also the pasuk says in the beginning of creation in Genesis and Bereshis, the waters should collect. They're under the heavens to one place. It should be fall into a basin, into a bowl, into a hole in the ground. And the land masses and the continents should rise and float above. Like it says in the Kili Chaste. And every single morning we make a bracha, we make this bracha because this is considered one of the most important events in the creation account. The fact that there's land, the fact that there is creations that come from the earth and they're dafka outside of their source. What's called Alma de Izgalya. And of course, we, creations of the land who are separate from our source, are blessed with the gift or the challenge of free will, and therefore we can become partners in Hashem's creation, and so forth and so on. It says that Rabbi Makomo came though in the beginning of time. The process is a process about the meaning of land and sea. In other words, the process is a process that goes through 4 steps of Yud Kei Vav Kei, and the same process repeats itself by Kriyas Yamsuf and Matan Torah. The same process repeats itself again by Bekiyas HaNahar and Torah Chadasha, but they're different. How are they different? You cannot compare the first occasion of meeting of land and sea, which is a metaphor, which is a mashal, which is a physical gestalt, representation of the mystical meaning of godliness and worldliness. But there's a great distinction between the first time it occurred and the second time it occurred. How so? The first occasion when there was this meeting of land and sea. The water should gather to one place. The land masses, that the continents should rise up and be visible. It creates a room. It allows for space for the emergence of the element of earth. That the pasuk says, that all comes from dust. And the way I explained it to you in Shir, I don't know if I'm right, but this is how I explained it to you. As an allusion to all living things. The beginning of the creation of living things, and the way the Rebbe said in the last Maimer, even Galgal Chamo depends on the emergence of earth. Because earth is the lowest level. has the maximum bittul. Again, all this was explained in Sunday's class, in my supplemental class. And therefore, earth has the possibility to create, in a way of yesh meyayin, a newness because it's separated from its source. So the rising up of the land masses, by the waters being pushed to the side, introduces the possibility for creating living things, which is an amazing accomplishment. But that process does not reveal godliness. It just reveals another potential, a possibility within godliness, in as much as creation is concerned. In other words, when the waters were pushed aside, so the land masses could rise. At that time, there were two things that were chasadim. The word chasadim means blemish or lack. But I think it's a little bit, the two things that I was calling a chasadim, it's really headed a maila. It's not a negative, it's just a lack of a positive. When the Eibishter created the world and he made the land masses rise up, so mystically it means he took away the greater revelation and he created an environment where there's a less revelation. He took away the light and created an environment of Helam. In this environment of Helam, the world can exist and we could serve him. So the revelation of God is not taking place here, but the creation of the space where we could serve him is taking place. So it's called chesaron, not be'etzem. It's called chesaron b'yachas to the giluyim of Kriyas Yamsuf. Aleph number 1. The water isn't becoming land. The water remains water and the land remains land. The water is simply displaced, pushed over. So there's no merging and converging and unifying of the mystical ideas called land and sea. There's a displacement of water for the sake of land. Now this second one is so interesting. It's really so interesting. Because l'chayr it's not a chasad, it's a maila. Listen, and this doesn't say in the previous maim at all. And I'd love to look at the mukkah of this maim. I'd love to see, when we started this hemshech, we decided that this basis on a maim in the Mittel Rebbe. I'd love to see what the Mittel Rebbe says about this, and I didn't look. I'll be honest. Shegam shini hamokim, even the displacement of water by the land, by the continents rising up. Shenik for a maim hamokamecha, that the waters were displaced and pushed to the side. To create the possibility of the emergence of land. Even the place where the land is, the land isn't altogether dry, it has moisture. And it must have moisture. Why? We established in Sunday's class, and based on the classes that we had last week, that the meaning of the statement Akel Hayam and Offer isn't that everything is created from earth, that everything living is created from earth, because living things have a specific property of yesh meyayin. This requires the bittul of Offer and so on. So if Akel Hayam and Offer means specifically every living thing, there's a living property to the Offer itself. Even though the Offer is creating living creatures in a way of yesh meyayin because of its bittul, but at the same time it creates them with a certain disposition, propensity, leaning towards life. And what is that? That the earth isn't dry, it's moist. Because moisture is the basis for all living things, even land creatures. As we see about vegetation. And the same, of course, we're true about animals and human beings. Let's do with the moisture in the earth. So although we explained before, when the Eibishter created the world, there's an initial meeting of land and sea. And the land displaces sea. The sea represents the revelation of godliness. The land represents the concealment of godliness. You push away the sea, you push away the revelation of godliness. And a concealment of godliness emerges, but there's moisture. Moisture means there's still a little bit of a sense of the source, because life requires moisture. And even though the earth is creating b'derech yesh meyayim, b'derech dilug, in a way that you look at the creation, you don't know which source, there's a certain order to it. There's a certain gradualism to it. I hate to use this word. There's a certain evolution to it, at least in as much that the earth is moist, which is the most basic aspect of how living things come into being. So the Rebbe says the initial event of meeting of land and sea has two deficiencies, two chesrenos. Chesara number 1, which was already mentioned in the previous Ma'amar, that you're not changing the water into the land. You're displacing the water for the land. And the second chesaron, which was not mentioned in the last Ma'amar, it's not a complete transition, because the land remains a little bit moist, which is considered a chesaron. What's the chesaron of land being a little bit moist? it's a little gilui. It's not total helam. It's a little gilui, because if it would be total helam, the land would be altogether dry. The creation of life from dry earth would be with another aspect of quantum, of jumping, which Klayachol the Torah doesn't wish for. Mashen came b'kriyas yam, so that we should split the sea. Both of those quote chesronos were not there. Why? Because maybe should split the sea. He didn't displace the water, which is where Hashem is revealed. For the land where Hashem is concealed, he made the water into land. The idea that God is revealed became the Yabasha, or the dry land became the sea. So the place of concealment itself became a place of revelation. Hayashin Hamos was the change of the substance. Shamayim Atzma Nepchol Yabasha, the water becomes earth. And therefore you have the second idea, cloud, the earth was absolutely dry, like it says in the Pasuk, that it's not that they able to split the sea and they were able to cross. He took us through it in a dry bed. There was no moisture. Now, if you think about it very simply and physically, it was better that it was dry, huh? You're not walking across a desert. If the earth is moist, it makes it harder for them to walk. If the earth is dry and it's hard, it's easy for them to work. So Hashem made an extra ness that the waters of the sea not only parted, of the Yam Suf, not only split for the Yidden to cross through, but the bed of the Yam was chorav, dry. So everybody said, what's the mysticism of this? It has no connection to life whatsoever. No connection to life whatsoever. So it represents the maximum choshech. But here we're saying that the maximum choshech is gilui. Why? Because the maximum choshech is the actual transformation of Yam Tiyabash. In other words, if you would want to think about this in philosophical terms, what the Rebbe is saying, when Hashem made the world, he hides himself. This hiding of self is the basis for Yesh Me'ayin. Says the Rebbe, the hiding of self for the base of Yesh Me'ayin is not total hiding, because there's moisture. When the Abish took us out of Egypt, he wanted to be revealed in the place of hiding. But he didn't reveal himself in the place of hiding as he did when he created the world, that there's a little moisture. Totally dry. Totally no life. And nevertheless, we saw him. In other words, it's an even greater idea of revealing the Eibishter in a place of concealment, because on the one hand, he's totally concealed, on the other hand, you see him. This seems to be the 2 points that the Rebbe is trying to present here. Okay? And now the Rebbe goes on to V'inyan Beruchnius. We just articulated the difference between model A and model B. And of course, Mr. tomorrow's class, we're going to have model C, the comparing and contrasting, the meeting of land and sea at the occasion of the creation versus the meeting of land and sea at the occasion of Kriyat Yam Suf, which that's about Tantera. And now the Rebbe says, what does it mean? Beruchni is, when you Beruchni is spiritual, it means as follows. Yam v'yabasha, the sea, the land and the sea and the land, the Ma'amar Kimei is the hidden world and the revealed world. The hidden world means you don't see world, you see God. The revealed world means you don't see God, you see world. And in the order of the chain of worlds, to reveal an environment where you see world rather than God. You have to hide the world where you see God. And this is common sense. If you live in an environment where you sense your source, like a fish in the sea, it lives in the water. What is its life? And according to Torah, not only what is its life, the fish were created from the water itself. And then you want to reveal a world where you don't see source, you don't see life, you see world. You have to go away from this in order to create this. You have to go away from Almadez Kassia for the sake of Almadez Galia. That's what happened when the Abishah created the world. And he explains it using another mashal, like when a person thinks versus the person speaks. In order for one's words to be spoken in an orderly fashion, the thought has to be contained. Which is the biblical form for this mystical idea. The waters have to be removed. The waters goes on machshava and almadis kasye. And for the Eibishter to speak for Yachal in an orderly fashion and one thing at a time, it's necessary to have a tzimtzum. Turn to page 278, in the level of thought, which is the Madrega of Yam. It's either or. Omnom, as opposed to B'kriyas Yam Suf Nischad, Hashem split the sea, the Eibishter introduced a new idea. That the two opposites don't replace each other, but they coexist. It's not either a world of machshava where Hashem is revealed, Alma Dizgasi, or a world of Dibur where Hashem is concealed, Alma Dizgalia, but in the Alma Dizgalia of the Gili of Alma Dizgasi. This Chadish, it was introduced that the level of thought, which is the hidden level where godliness is more revealed, Yizgala B'Dibur is revealed in the level of speech itself. The sea becomes land. The sea becomes dry land. When Nizbayir Gam came to the says, I explained in the previous Ma'amar. No, let me stop here for a moment, okay? Now let me talk just a little bit about this. Not long, but short. What are the differences between thought and speech? What are the differences between thought and speech? Pashat bepashtas. In the human experience. The difference between thought and speech are these. When a person thinks, they think in images, in pictures. In other words, when you're thinking, you don't have to necessarily think about one idea at a time. You can have the whole image, the whole panorama, the whole vision of your idea at once. There are many, many aspects, but you see them as a unit. When you speak, you have to speak to somebody else. So you have to divide them up into parts. What thought you're going to say first, what thought you're going to say second, what thought you're going to say third. And of course you have to organize your thoughts so that it should come out in an orderly fashion. So the first difference between thought and speech that I'm presenting is that thought is one. You think all ideas are in a unit, in a visual. And in speech, you speak one word at a time, one idea at a time. And of course the second idea, and arguably the most important difference is, when a person thinks, they're thinking only for themselves. It's a communication between person and self. While communication between person and self doesn't have many containments. It doesn't have to be very controlled and very exact. As they say in English, as long as you understand yourself, it's good. When you're speaking to somebody else, it becomes very, very critical that somebody else should understand. And that's really the difference. When I think, I'm communicating with self. When I'm speak, I'm communicating with other, and the other has to get it. And the third difference between thought and speech is that when a person speaks, there's two parts to the spoken word. There's the actual words that they say, and then there's the air, there's the exhalation of air from the lungs into the spoken word. And the fact is that if you're very excited, if you're hyperventilating, if there's too much air coming out of the lungs, the words don't come out right. If you want the words to come out orderly, coherently, and one after the next, you have to limit, you have to modulate, you have to control the amount of air that comes from the lungs and hits against the vocal cords, the meitzoi, and so forth. These three differences explain the difference between two types of creation. When Hashem creates the world and creation, the whole creation is one. When Hashem creates the world and creation, the whole creation is Him. When Hashem creates the world, the creation, the level of thought, there's no need to diminish how much energy He invests, because it's one with Him. When Hashem speaks, number one, He has to speak into the world outside of Him. Number two, there has to be His chalkos. He creates the world over the course of 6 days, 10 different utterances, which of course, according to Hasidus, is only 10 general utterances. Specifically, it's many, many different statements that are responsible for the creation of each creation. And lastly, the amount of life that one invests, one blows into the words that are creating the various creations has to be limited. So there's a very big difference metaphysically, beruchnius, between speech and thought. When I speak, when the Eibishter speaks creation, it's outside of Him. The Eibishter speaks creation, it's divided up into distinctive aspects. When the Eibishter speaks creation, the amount of life in the creation is limited. The meeting between land and sea in the beginning of creation was like going away from thought to speech, going away from Yam to Yabash. So it's a great symptom. From the world being one with Him, it's now separated from Him. From the world being one with itself, it's now a diversified world divided up into aspects. From the world having an enormous amount of life and light, it has a very limited life and light. That's creation. What happens by Kriyas Yam? So there's also a phenomena of two levels, where the world is one with Him and it's one with itself, and there's a lot of life, versus the world is separate from Him and it's separate from itself, and there's a very limited amount of life. But it's not all one or the other, it's both. The level of Dibur has the same concentration of godly presence as Machshav. Even though Hashem is speaking, He's creating dry land, and he's speaking words that are reaching us, one word at a time. And arguably the amount of life we invest in those words has to be limited for us to be able to receive it. In that dibur, there's a concentration of machshava. There's a giluy ein sof in the place where there should be a tzimtzum and a helam. And the Ma'amar is going to explain the reason this happens is because it's from Havaya de Le'ela. It comes from a level of godliness, which the Rebbe says there's no lower and there's no higher. Hashovo, Masher, Kotten of God, there's no lower and there's no higher. So although Hashem is speaking words that are limited and they're reaching us, the concentration of godliness in those spoken words is like as if he's thinking it. Because it's a much higher meaning of land and sea, where it's not either sea or land, it's both together. And the Rebbe continues, V'nizbayr Gamkin, third line on page 278, the Rebbe explains, Shapiza Yuvin, this further explains, Hatzerech B'kriyas Yamsov, the need for the splitting of the sea. Any move in the question is why did the sea have to split? And the Rebbe is talking now historically. Yidden left Egypt. The Mitzrayim are chasing them. And they're running away. And they're in a panic. And they're afraid. So the sea splits. They go into the sea, come back on the same side. All of the same place they went in, they went out. Then again the Rebbe tastes the. So how was this beneficial for their escape if they came out the same side they went in? And of course, the answer is Kriyas Yamsov was not about saving them from Egypt; it was about preparing them for the Nisin Satera. The pshat is Kriyas Yamsov Hoyo. The event of the splitting of the sea was the Tzeirecha for the purposes of preparation of the Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. And when the Eibishter gave the Torah, Torah also has words, and Torah also has sections, and Torah also has different ideas that are spoken one at a time and discussed one at a time. But in each word, in each letter, in each idea in the Torah, there's a gili of machshava vein safe. The koyach for the Torah to be on the one hand limited like speech, on the other hand godly like thought, is that before the Eibishter gave the Torah, he split the sea and converged land and sea. He didn't displace sea for land, push aside giloy amadisgasya of amadisgalya, but he converged them. When the Eibishter gave us the Torah, the two opposites of revelation, communication to us, which is represented by the word speech, separate from the source, separate from itself, diverse in other words, and with limited life, and in that circumstance there was a gili of ein sof like machshava. What set up that event was the splitting of the sea. Because when the sea was split, there was a convergence of machshava and dibur in a way of gilui, and it set the stage for the real convergence of machshava and dibur in a way of gilui, which is Matan Torah. That repeats again what he said in the previous time. That's why the sea split. Then it was into one piece. Before the Eibishter gave us, there was no particular fashions of service. You had only one basic kind of preparation, and therefore when it split into B'kiyachas. So at the moment, Rabbi Sai, the Rebbe is repeating what he said in the previous Ma'amar. And the previous Ma'amar, we said B'kiyachas as a chasar. The sea splitting into one part means that there's no keli from our end, entirely from the Eibishter, so it splits into one. L'asad Lave, it says it's going to split into 7 because it's going to be a product of Birurim, like I said in the previous Ma'amar. And he says that here, okay? But you'll see later the Rebbe is going to change his mind. And the later the Rebbe is going to change his mind is consistent with the difference between this Ma'amar and the previous Ma'amar. What's the difference between this Ma'amar and the previous Ma'amar? This Ma'amar is going to speak also about Atzmos. And when he talks about Atzmos, he's going to flip it around. From the perspective of Atzmos, the greatest event was the first. Like the Rebbe said yesterday, call us Cholos Kashas. And it splits only into one part because as far as Atzmos is concerned, there are no parts. So he's saying the same idea twice. That when the Eibishter split the sea at Yamsov, he split it only into one part. And there's two insights as to why. From the angle of Giluyim, it's a chesadim, we were not adequately prepared, everything was Mumayla. And from the angle of Atzmos, it's because Atzmos is above the vision. Okay, so keep all of these things inside. I'm sort of giving you the Ma'amar piecemeal, but I'm telling you where we're going. And the Rebbe, I want to add something else. What's the Rebbe going to add now? The Rebbe is going to add now that Kriyas Yamsov is not only Havaya de Le'ela, Kriyas Yamsov is also Havaya in Atzmos. Or to say it in different words, that even though in the last Ma'amar we spoke about 3 Havayas, Havaya de Latata, Havaya de Le'ela, and Havaya in Atzmos, in general, all Giluyim of Havaya, which account for higher than Teva, for the Inyan HaNes, are included in Havaya de Le'ela, including Havaya of Atzmos. So Rebbe is now going to say Kriyas Yamsuf is also a gili of Atzmos, not just a gili of Avaydeliyeh. Like I said, he already said this in the previous Maimer. What he said in the previous Maimer was that since by Kriyas Yamsuf the Eibusha gave us the whole Torah, because Matan Torah La'yeh Edapam including the Torah of Mashiach, that the gili of Atzmos then as well. But in this Maimer it seems it's not the only reason he's saying it. He's saying it also because of the principle that all Giluyim begin with Kriyas Yamsuf. They're not revealed as Kriyas Yamsuf. They begin with Kriyas Yamsuf. They're going to be revealed in Yemei Mashiach. But they begin with Kriyas Yamsuf. Let's read, okay? So don't get nervous. The Rebbe is sort of changing his mind a little bit. So you have to sort of keep in mind how this Maimer is the same as the last Maimer, how it's different than the last Maimer. And let's learn. Hine. The first idea we talked about in the previous paragraph. When the sea split, it was different than the occasion of meeting of land and sea in the creation account. Because in the creation account, it was the sea being pushed away from the land. And in the Matan Torah account, it's the sea being transformed into the land. The only revelation of Atzilus in the lower worlds. As it is known, the lower three worlds are considered the place where world is revealed and God is hidden. Atzilus is the place where God is revealed and world is hidden. And the convergence of the two comes from Avaydeliyeh, from Atzilus, it comes from an even higher level. Because that if you go to a level higher, not only is Bia Alma Dizgalia, not only is Bia a place where godliness is concealed, but even in Atzilus is a place where godliness is concealed. Even though Atzilus is a place where the Gili of the Behus of Hadav ain't safe, Lagabi Atzmos is considered hell. The hidden world is Lamalami Atzilus, which is above Atzilus. So the Rebbe changes. That it's not only Kriyas Yamsuf. There was a Gil of Atzilus into Biyah, Havaydeliyah into Havaydelatata. There was a bringing together in Keser, which is higher than Atzilus, and Biyah, which is going to call Havayah and Atzmos. And again, if you remember the last Maimer, one of the aspects of how the Rebbe explained this is because he said something which I haven't seen in other Maimorim. That anybody who had the Shaykhs to Keser automatically have the Shaykhs to Pnimius Keser, because Keser is one Midah. Just like you say about Pnimis Abba, Pnimis Atik. That the Pnimis of Chochmah Ratzon is Keser, so the Chitzenius Keser and the Pnimis Keser are one and the same. Now, what's bothering the Rebbe, what's compelling the Rebbe to make this change, I'm not 100% sure. I'm still not 100% sure. I believe that the reason he's doing this because he wants to emphasize that all Giluyim are Giluyim. But I don't know. What's important is that it doesn't change the overall picture that much. Kriyas Yamsuf is much higher than the creation event because Hashem is revealed. Godliness is revealed. That's all you have to know. Let's do it inside. Okmation is by, as we discussed at length in the previous Ma'amar there's two levels of Shem Havaya. First of all, there's a Havaya Latata, there's a lower Shem Havaya. And second of all, there's a Havaya El, there's a higher Shem Havaya. And we discussed at length in the previous Maimer the difference, Havaya, Latata, the lower Havaya, who in Yindalad, Eisius Havaya, it's the four letters of the divine name Havaya. Shein Yonim, that the concept of the four letters of Havaya is Tzimtzum v'hispashtos, Hamshacha v'hispashtos, Kvisha shacham linas havos, the idea that change or evolution takes place for the sake of creation. What is the meaning of change for the sake of creation? Concealment. In the beginning of the process, Hashem is more revealed. And at the end of the process, Hashem is less revealed. So there's room for worldliness. That's a Taich Havaya Delatat. And he continues, the higher Havaya is the Havaya in Ratzon, in will. And what we know about will is two things. On the one hand, we say there are four letters, there are four steps. When a person wills to build a house, the steps of building the house are included in that will. But at the same time, they're indistinguishable because they're simultaneous. In the thought, the first aspect that's practical, the last aspect that's practical, included in one thought. However, so it's called Havaya Shabaratzon. And according to the previous Maimer, Havaya Shabaratzon does not bring together the concealed world and the revealed world by hiding the concealed world, but by revealing the concealed world. Because Havaya Deliela, which is above Ishtalshalus, doesn't have the steps to affect concealment as the Havaya Delatata has. But now that Rebbe adds the third idea, this is new. We're about to learn. Ulamayla Yes, even higher than this, in Havaya Deliela. That when you say the Matan Torah with the relation of Havaya doesn't only mean Havaya Deliela of Atzilos, but Gama Bechinas Ratzon, Havaya Deliela of Ratzon of Keser, Elahu Havaya Sheba Atmos, just the Havaya of Atmos itself, And the Rebbe adds, it's not only that Bakriyas Yam says is Gila Vayda, which unifies the highest and the lowest. So the Havaya goes through steps, but it doesn't affect concealment. But there's also Havaya Shabbatzmas in Kriyas Yamsuf and Matan Torah Havaya and Atzmas. Like the Rebbe said in the previous Maimer when the Eibush gave us Torah Har Sinai, Havaya of Atzmas was not revealed, but the Matan Torah would account also for the Torah Chadash. Like the Alter Rebbe says, Matan Torah Liyeda Pam. So even the Torah Chadash of Mashiach was revealed then as well. And Ein Be'esias Klal has no letters. This concept of a Havaya with no letters, I mentioned in one of the classes from the last Maimed. I didn't understand it then. I still don't understand it today, so we're going to move on. V'hainu, this means the level of Havaya D'Le'ela, which is in Ratzon Yesh Be'esias, has letters. Elish and Behelim. The Asias are hidden, and hidden in this case means all four happen simultaneously. There's no gradualism. There's no going away from one to go to the next, and going from the second to go to the third, and so on. As we discussed before, that when a person has a process that involves many steps, and when it's actualized, you have to actually go through the steps, from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, says the Rebbe, in the person's will, all those steps exist. In the Ratzon, they're hidden. So in Havaya D'Le'ela, at least there's will, there's oisius, there's steps. Hashem wants to go away from where He is to come to worldliness, but the way it's in want, it's all simultaneous. The third Havaya, which called Havaya and Atmos, there's no 4 steps whatsoever. The concept of the 4 steps is Tzimtzum V'Yispashas V'chulu. It's gradualism. It's changing one to the next. Havaya D'Latata is the real change, because it's Asurim Mikan Li'Iskadav L'Sham. You go away from Malakos to world. Havaya D'Le'ela, Ratzon is different, because since it happens at the same time, this faith goes off a revelation of godliness and worldliness, but at least it steps. V'ha'atzmos, and he means specifically Havaya of Atzmos, because you'll see later in the Ma'amar that there's going to be 2 separate ideas, Atzmos and Gili Atzmos, Shulamayla Megada Helam V'Gilui, which is above the entire category of Helam V'Gilui, says the Holy Rebbe, L'Shayach Banyan Atzimtzum V'Yispashas Klal, there's no such thing as steps at all. There's no concealment whatsoever. In other words, L'Gabe Havaya of Atzmos, if one experiences Atzmos, that means Havaya is revealed. And there's no process to go from here to here, but whatever Etzem is B'his Galus. So the Rebbe continues. So again, in the previous Maimer, we associated Matan Torah primarily with Havaya D'Le'ela, Ratzon. He mentioned that the Havaya of Atzmos is also there. Here he wants to emphasize even more that Bakriyas Yam is also Havaya of Atzmos. Could you give me 1 second, please? I appreciate that. I'm on page 278, and we're 6 lines from the bottom of the page, okay? V'achid, there's the Kriyas Yamsuf, who, what happened when they split the sea, is that Bechin is Sahelem Davai D'Le'ela. The level of godliness, which is the higher Havaya, which is hidden. Hidden because it's above revelation. Shehu Havaya Shabbatzmos, which includes 2 levels now. Both the Havaya of Ratzon, and the Havaya of Atzmos, Baba Gilim Mamish, Baba Tlat is revealed in world. World is about concealment. Havaya D'Le'ela is above world and therefore above concealment. But Havaya D'Le'ela has a koyach to bring above concealment into concealment, that there should be a world and godliness should be revealed. And you'll see in the next paragraph how this happens. Shaharei. The splitting of the sea's purpose was to prepare the road for the giving of the Torah. Matan Torah Ksiv, what Abish gave us the Torah, was the Gili HaAtzmos. In the words, you have a Gili of Havaya Ba'atzmos, which is Aidei Limud HaTorah, Lamata, by us learning Torah down here, Teifsim Bechinas HaAtzmos. So by Matan Torah, there was a Gili of Havaya Ba'atzmos. And again, the point is that into worldliness that represents concealment, there is godliness that represents revelation of Havaya D'Le'ela Ratzon, Havaya of Atzmos, which is above Asius, in a way that they are revealed in the world, and the world still remains. But again, in the previous Maimed, the Rebbe said that the Havaya of Atzmos is available at Matan Torah, but it's Behelim. What's Begil is only Havaya D'Le'ela. Here he seems to be saying otherwise. And the Rebbe concludes with a Gemara, which is mentioned also in Tanya. Which is why the Gemara says, one is fortunate if he comes to the Bezdin Shalmaila to Gan Eden, he brings along the Talmud that he learned in this world. When he learns Torah down here in a revealed way, Nigla. How do you say he merits even all the great revelations of the Yasad Lavi? The reason for this is the Abish gave the Torah to us, which is down here. And in the Torah which the Abish gave us, he gave us himself, everything included the Abish himself. So when we learn Torah, we have the Abish. So Ashrei Misha Bola Kan V'Talmud, the other Mashiach comes. We bring along our Talmud, because in our Talmud, in our Torah, you have Atzmas. You have Havaydel Eila and Atzmas. Akiv and Jekes Yamsef Hachon Lamatan Torah, the splitting of the, he prepared the world for the giving of the Torah. Hey, and Bekiyas Yamsef Gam Havai Sheba Atzmas, you have to say that not only when the Abish gave us the Torah was the Zegili of Havayim, but when the Abish split the seed, is also a Gili of Havai Sheba Atzmas. That's Nimshach Begili Bechinas Havaydel Tata Vaydei and Nimshach Gam Lamata Yeser. And this was the source of bringing it to the next step, from the top down, that Alma Discasi Heba Alma Disgalia Vachagal Lamata Bilamad Nepechan Lebasha. The Rebbe is trying to say that it happens backwards. The first Gili of Kriyas Yamsef of the Havai of Atzmas. And this created a cascade, it created a snowball effect, it created an avalanche. When Havai of Atzmas comes to the Vaydel Yela goes into Vaydel Tata. When Vaydel Tata comes into the Ilmuz Bia come into Asiyah. The consequence of this is that even down here there was the highest levels of Gilui. So Kriyas Yamsuf is different than creation, because in creation the Lakim covers the Havaya, and by Kriyas Yamsuf the Lakim reveals the higher Havaya as well. Because Kriyas Yamsuf is the convergence of opposites. Now most of what we learned said in the previous Maimed, but the next paragraph is completely new. It wasn't the previous Maimed at all, and this, Rabbi Yisai, is how this Maimed is different than the one before, because it's going to introduce Moshe Rabbeinu, and as you'll see in Mitzvah more tomorrow, Moshe Rabbeinu's whole lineage is Atzmos. The power to bring together worldliness, which requires concealment, and godliness, which is about revealing the highest godliness in the lowest worlds. Of Alma Kasi, of Alma God revealed within the hidden world. But Lamaili is even higher. The Atzilish comes to the lower worlds, and Ketzketzes from the lowest worlds, and Yitzhak comes to the lowest worlds. Sheyechi, but Avayd Latat Avayd, there should be a joining of the lower Avayd and the higher Avayd, and according to what we just said, not just Avayd Latat and Avayd Liel, but also Avayd of Atzmos. This is the accomplishment of Moshe Rabbeinu, and you'll see later in this Maimed, not today but tomorrow, in Mitzvah Shem or Thursday, that the whole inyan of Moshe Rabbeinu is Atzmos. Like I told you a number of times before, one of the Chedushim in this Maimed is that in one way Moshe is even greater than Mashiach, because he has Atzmos, because he's now. Mashiach is not now, Mashiach doesn't have Atzmos. The Kivan Shebechinos, the Pasuk says, V'yikra Havaya Havaya, V'kayal Moshe called Hashem, he said Hashem's name twice, Havaya Delatata and Havaya Delayela. Because Moshe is higher than both, and he's able to bring the two together, that the Gilim of Havaya Delayela should be revealed in Havaya Delatata, and the world should be able to take it. So Moshe to bring together the lower Havaya and the higher Havaya. He has to be above both of them. He has the ability to bring them together. In different words, shall Moshe, the level of Moshe, is Lamayla Gam Avayd Leila. He's above Avayd Leila. And he says right away, Lamayla Gam Avayd Shabbatzmas. Like I told you on the previous page, the Rebbe is changing in this Maimed and putting Avayd Leila, which is Avayd Shabbatzmas, and Avayd Shabbatzmas, which is higher than that, into one Madrega. And Moshe is higher than both of them. Moshe Rabbeinu was higher than the interface of Avayd Latata and Avayd Leila. Moshe Rabbeinu is even higher than the interface of Avayd Atzmos and Avayd Latata, and that's why you can bring them together, because he's above them both. We explain this is why I gave you the Akdama about Rav and Talmud. The Rebbe wanted to use one mashal for all three Havayas. The lowest Havaya is the mashal of a teacher who teaches. The second Havaya is a teacher who wants to teach. And the third Havaya is a teacher who has wanting to teach in his etzim. All three are Giluyim, save, kol, save. And when a Yid, let's read it inside. The Hinan is ba yellow. We explained before Shabavai Shabbatmus Ubchinas Havaya Shabbatas Lamuchad Batzmus. When we speak about Havaya and Atzmus, we don't mean Atzmus Mamish. We mean how Ratzon is Muchat and Atzmus Ratzon is locked away in Atzmus. Vim came moving, and therefore we know Shagab Bechinas Havaya Shabbat Atzmus ain't Atzmus Mamish. Even Havaya of Atzmus is not Atzmus. It's the Gili of Havaya of Atzmus. V'haraya, it's connected to Ratzon. And you have no idea how problematic this is. Any person who is the first Maimon Samachay and the first few Maimorim and Toshin Gimel is turning over now. Because if you study the Sugi of Ras Namuchal Batzmusei, you're left almost no choice but to say that Ratzon Amuchal Batzmusay is a Smusay. But here's flipping it the other way. You call it Ratzon, Ishenish Tatzmus. And how you separate Ratzon Amuchal Batzmusay from Batzmusay is a very complicated parsha. In other words, every Hemshech has different focus, and Safkos of the Hemshechim have to meet and work it out. Havaya Shaba Atzmus, Einyo Atzmus, Mamish, Havaya and Atzmus is not Atzmus, Kiyama Eila Kol Batzmus. It's only Eir. And that's why Bechinas Meishu Lamayla Gama Bechinas Havaya Shaba Atzmus Meishu is even higher than this, because Meishu Magiyah Bha Atzmus, Mamish, Meishu Tashal Atzmus. And later in the Mami you'll see that the way this breaks out, that makes Meishu Rabbein even higher than Havaya Daliyel. Kimeishu Magiyah Bha, that was because when he connects it to the Pasuk. And now you're going to have 4 things, huh? Before we had 3. Yeah, I'll take out a Siddur, okay? Last time I tried to say the Siddur by heart and I got all entangled. In the Psukim of Vayosha, it says 3 times Hashem's name. Okay, I'm on page 39 it says, Vayosha Hashem, okay, this one doesn't count. Vayei Mehu Yisrael Miyad Mitzrayim. But then it says, Vayari Yisrael, the Jewish people saw as Mitzrayim, the Egyptians made dead al Stasi on the edge of the river. Vayari Yisrael, the Jewish people saw as Yoda Gadel, the great hand that should also Hashem, that Hashem did by Mitzrayim and the Mitzrayim. Vayiru Amas Hashem, and they feared him. Vayaminu Bad Hashem, and they believed in him. So you have Vayari Yisrael as Yoda Gadela. Pardon me. Forgive me. Then you have as Asher Asa Hashem ben Mitzrayim, Vayiru, and then you have Vayiru Amas Havaya. No, I'm saying it wrong. There's 3 Havayas. There's Havaya de Le'ela, there's Havaya of Atzmus, and there's higher than Havaya in Atzmus. Vayari saw the Jewish people saw Yoda Gadel, the great hand that Hashem and David did Mitzrayim. And that was very moving, because it was not concealed, it was revealed. Havaya de Le'ela. Vayiru Amas Hashem is Havaya in Atzmus. Vayaminu V'Havaya is even higher than that. Let's see it. I'm sorry, I didn't help with the Siddur. Let's do the Ma'amar do the talking. It doesn't the pasuk Vayari Yisrael, the Jewish people saw. It's the second pasuk of Vayesh Yoda Gadel, the great hand that Shasa Hashem b'Mitzrayim that Hashem did in Egypt. Vayiru Amas Hashem, the nation saw and was afraid. Vayiminu Bad Hashem, they believed, and the Eibush of Meisha Avdei, so there becomes 4 levels. What are the 4 levels? The say that Amadreg is pasuk Zamu Matal, the sequence of these psukim. This pasuk is in the bottom up. Number 1, Vayari Yisrael Asher Asa Hashem Hainu Havayid Letata. The Jewish people saw what Hashem did. This was the Havayah of nature. Vayiru Amas Havayid, and they feared Hashem, which is the Havayah D'Le'el. Vayaminu Bad Hashem, and the Havayah Ba'atzmos, like the Rebbe said in the previous Ma'amar, that Havayah and Atzmos can only believe him. But then it tells of Moshe Avdei, and the Rebbe says Moshe Avdei is higher than all 3 Havayas. So what are there's 4 things, Take. The first 3 are Madregas and Havayah, higher even than Havayah of Atzmos is Moshe himself. Which indicates the level of Moshe Rabbeinu is Havayah and Atzmos, and that's why he has the Keichel Lechaber Lahamshech Havayah Sheba Atzmos Shor Begili. That Havayah that Moshe Rabbeinu brings together Havayah de Le'ela, which includes Havayah Sheba Atzmos and Havayah de Latata, that in world God that should be revealed. Now, wait. When you read this last paragraph, we didn't have it in the previous Ma'amar at all. You'll see later that this last paragraph is the key to the Ma'amar. It's going to come up again and again. And what the Rebbe is going to say is that we have all these levels of Giluyim that we talked about with Hechrim. Now we're saying the Koyach will this Giluyim is Atzmos. And one of the things which expresses Atzmos is Moshe. In Seif we'll see that Moshe Rabbeinu is even higher than Liyasad Lavi. And I'll see you tomorrow. Again, the schedule is 8 o'clock tonight is the Fabreng for Lag Beimer. Tomorrow morning is Wednesday, so I have a regular Ma'amar class. And then at 10:20 tomorrow, I'm teaching Mechon Liyad. There's 2 classes on Siddur. Again, we're doing Haidu. 5 o'clock is going to be Parsha with the Yeshiva Bacharim, and 6 o'clock is going to be Ma'amar. That's tomorrow's schedule. I'll say it one more time. Tonight at 8, B'lined, there's a Fabreng with the Bacharim. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, 8:40 is the regular Sheresh Mitzvah Tefillah class, which we didn't have today. At around 10:15, we're going to have 2 classes on Siddur. And then at 5 o'clock, we're going to have Parsha. And at 6 o'clock, we're going to have Ma'amar with Hashem's help. Okay, good Yom Tov. I'll see you later.